She didn't see me when I walked in. They were laughing about something. He said it too loud, and she did that thing where she covers her mouth with both hands, like she's trying to look polite while completely forgetting she has a husband. I didn't order coffee. I didn't sit down. I didn't breathe. I stood there long enough to hear her call him Bear. She used to call me that when we first moved in together, when I used to carry her up the stairs after night shifts because her legs were sore. I turned around and walked out before they could notice. The waitress gave me a weird look, like she thought I was the one being weird, like I didn't belong there. Back home, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I wrote 6 words on the back of a grocery receipt and stuck it to the inside of the front door with a piece of chewing gum. Don't come home. I saw you. Then I left. No suitcase, no car. Just my wallet and a windbreaker and whatever was left of my dignity. I took the train 2 hours south, sat in an empty laundromat, and watched some stranger's jeans spin in a dryer while I tried not to throw up. At midnight, my phone had 11 missed calls. By 2 a.m., 19. By sunrise, she had stopped calling, but someone else started. Her mother. Her boss. A number I didn't recognize that left a voicemail saying, "You should hear her side of it." I never expected what she'd do next. Not in a million years. I thought the cafe was the lowest point. It wasn't. By noon the next day, the note was gone. I didn't remove it. I wasn't even near the house. I had crashed on a friend's pull-out couch, Jules, who works nights, and didn't ask many questions. I appreciated that. He tossed me a blanket, nodded toward the fridge, and went back to gaming like I wasn't unraveling next to him in silence. That's what I needed. Silence. No pity. No advice. Just somewhere other than our living room. But when I came back the next day, mostly to grab my passport and the hard drive I'd forgotten, I found the door unlocked. The note was gone, the gum still on the wood like some pathetic fossil of my last nerve. The house was too quiet. No keys jingling. No clinking dishes. Just the TV on in the background, playing some real estate show she always had on. Muted. That's what tipped me off. She never watched it muted. I didn't say her name. I didn't call out. Instead, I walked down the hallway to the bedroom. Empty, but not untouched. The closet was open. Her side, still full. Mine, empty hangers swaying like ghosts in a storm. She hadn't taken anything, but she'd clearly gone through it. The drawer where I kept our letters, the old movie stubs, the tiny sticky notes she used to leave in my lunchbox, wide open. The box was gone. She didn't come home to apologize. She came to erase me. I stood in the doorway for 5 full minutes, trying to process what exactly that meant. The silence wasn't just awkward now. It was surgical, like she had cut me out with careful hands. And then I noticed it, the smell. Not her perfume. Not detergent. Cologne. Not mine. Someone had been here with her. I walked into the bathroom and saw 2 wet towels hung perfectly on the rack. Hers was always crumpled at the foot of the bed, always damp, always thrown. This was different. This was intentional. This was for show. I didn't even realize I had backed up until I bumped into the hallway mirror and knocked my own reflection sideways. She hadn't just ignored the note. She turned our home into a crime scene, where the murder weapon was subtlety, and I was the one bleeding out on the floor. But what she did next, that wasn't subtle at all. That was war. I should have left again. Should have walked right out, taken whatever pride I had left and buried it far away from that hallway, from those towels, from that ghost version of our life she was now staging like it was on display for an open house. But I didn't leave. I sat down on the floor in the bedroom, right next to the open drawer she'd gutted, and I just stared at the empty space where all our history used to be. There was no fight, no shouting match, no final door slam. Just the quiet unraveling of a marriage in slow, calculated steps. And yet somehow, she still made me feel like I was the intruder. Like I was trespassing in a life that used to belong to me. That's when I heard the knock. I froze. For taps. Not rushed, not frantic. Confident. The kind of knock that says, "I already know you're in there, and I'm not going away." I didn't answer. I waited, praying it was a delivery driver, someone lost, anyone but her. Then came the second knock. And a voice. A man's voice. "Hey, Emery, right?" That froze my stomach cold. No one calls me that. No one outside her circle, anyway. I've always gone by M, or nothing at all. If he knew my full name, he wasn't a stranger. I stood, opened the bedroom door, walked down the hallway slowly. I couldn't see his face yet, just the silhouette through the frosted glass. Broad shoulders. hair slicked back, leaning slightly, like he'd done this before. I opened the door halfway. He didn't flinch. He looked younger than me, smug, like he'd already won. "I figured you might be here," he said, glancing behind me like he expected to see Odessa slinking around the corner in a robe. I didn't respond. He smiled like I was a child, like I was some clueless relic still clinging to hope. "She said you'd overreact, that you'd probably leave a note or something dramatic," he added. "You did, right? Something poetic?" My jaw tightened. He didn't deserve an answer. He nodded to himself. "Anyway, I just came to grab my jacket. It's in the front closet." That was the moment. The one where you either explode or you don't. But I didn't explode. I laughed. It wasn't planned. It just came out. This broken, sharp-edged laugh that hurt on the way up. And I stepped aside. "Be my guest," I said, motioning to the closet. He walked past me, grabbed the green jacket off the hook, the one from the café, and as he turned to leave, he looked me in the eyes and said, "You're handling this better than I thought. She said you'd cry." I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But not yet. Because her next move would make me cry. It would humiliate me. It would burn through every boundary I still thought we had. And it would start with a single post. One photo. 5 words. And over 300 comments by morning. I didn't check my phone that night. Not because I was trying to be strong, but because I knew what would be waiting for me. Messages from mutual friends I hadn't spoken to in years. A few missed calls from her mom, who always called me Sweet Emery when she needed something and that man when she didn't. Probably a few emails from her too, carefully worded, just in case she could later say, "I tried to reach out." But nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I finally caved and opened Instagram. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. It was a photo, bright lighting, shallow depth of field, professionally taken, maybe even edited. Odessa, standing on the balcony of our old apartment, her hair loose in the wind, eyes closed, hands resting gently on the railing like she was soaking in some peaceful new chapter. And next to her, him, the man from the cafe, same forest green jacket, same smug grin. His arm was around her waist. Her body leaned into his. And the caption? "When you stop choosing pain, peace arrives." I felt it in my gut, that cold, twisting knot of betrayal tightening until I couldn't breathe. The comments made it worse. "You deserve this happiness. Oh, glad you're finally free. I always knew he wasn't good for you. This looks like healing red heart adhesive bandage." My hands were shaking. I wasn't angry yet. Anger comes with energy. I just felt wiped out. Like someone had taken the air from the room and replaced it with static. Then I saw the DM. Not from her. From someone I hadn't talked to since high school. "Layla. Hey, I'm sorry to bring this up, but I saw Odessa's post, and I'm honestly confused. Weren't you guys still married?" Still married. As in, not even separated. Not officially. Not even informally. No fight. No, I'm leaving you. No conversation. Just a note on the door and an Instagram caption 24 hours later that rewrote our entire relationship like it had been one long mistake. And this man, this stranger, was her salvation. But what broke me wasn't the betrayal. It was the story she was building out of it. She wasn't just moving on. She was marketing it. Every post, every comment, every saved story, she was crafting a narrative where I was the weight she had shed, and he was the peace she had manifested. I wanted to scream. I wanted to reply to every comment with the truth, to show the receipts, literal ones. The bills in my name. The anniversary she forgot. The nights I slept on the couch after another one of her silent days. But I didn't. Because that's not what broke me. What broke me was what I found 2 days later. Tucked in the bottom drawer of my nightstand. The thing I never thought I'd see again. The only piece of her I thought had been real. And that's when I realized. This wasn't just betrayal. It was something deeper. Something she had planned. I didn't even remember keeping that notebook. It had been buried under tax documents, old warranty papers, and a stack of expired coupons I never used. I only opened the drawer because I was looking for a pen. It was the kind of moment that feels accidental, mundane, even. But it wasn't. Not this time. The notebook was small, leather-bound, with a cracked spine and a corner stained from what looked like old tea. She used to keep it beside the bed, back when we still talked at night. Back when we whispered ideas for a future we both claimed to want. A house with a porch. A rescue dog. Mismatched chairs in a backyard we never landscaped. I had assumed she threw the notebook away. She said she didn't like reading her old thoughts. It made her feel boxed in by past versions of herself. But clearly, she hadn't thrown it away. She'd just hidden it. From me, I opened to the middle. What I saw didn't make sense at first. The page was dated 7 months ago, long before the café, before the silence started stretching between us like an unspoken contract. The first line read, "If he finds out before June, pivot to story B." I stared at it, heart thudding in my ears. The handwriting was unmistakably hers. Loopy, rushed, familiar. Every letter a quiet betrayal. Beneath it, bullet points. Frame it as emotional neglect. Use therapy language. Trauma response. Mention how he always pulls away during conflict, even if reversed. Say you tried for months, but were dismissed. Do not mention Eli unless forced. If confronted, reframe. I didn't cheat. I escaped. Eli. So that was his name. The forest green jacket now had a label. And suddenly, I wasn't the abandoned husband anymore. I was the character in a script. A draft she had edited, revised, and rehearsed until she could perform it with tears on command and flawless inflection. I flipped through more pages. More dates. More rehearsed conversations. Entire paragraphs of imagined dialogue she wanted me to say, followed by alternate versions if I refused. There was even a checklist titled, "In case I go viral." Keep captions vague but empowering. Use words like healing and liberation. Have Eli comment something sweet. Delete hate. Change profile pic 2 days later. Smile, no ring. I slammed the notebook shut. My hands were trembling. This wasn't grief. This wasn't heartbreak. It was something colder. Clinical. She hadn't just cheated on me. She had prepared for it. She had mapped it out like a project. Drafted timelines. Rehearsed public reactions. Predicted my pain and turned it into pre-written content. I was never going to win. The game was rigged. I sat on the edge of the bed for what felt like hours, holding that notebook, flipping between fury and despair like a switch stuck on flicker. Then I made a mistake. I opened her Instagram again. And this time, I didn't just see a photo. I saw a video. Her voice, soft. Her eyes red. She was holding the very same notebook, reading from it slowly like it was a diary she'd just found and not a blueprint she had weaponized. "I wrote this when I was still trapped," she said in the video, her voice cracking. "I wrote it so I wouldn't forget how it felt." The post was titled, "How I Survived My Marriage." 200,000 views. Thousands of comments. People called her brave. They call me a ghost. But ghosts don't leave fingerprints. And I was about to make mine count. For the next 3 days, I said nothing. I didn't respond to messages. Didn't defend myself. I let the storm pass over like fog on a battlefield, low and suffocating. Everyone had an opinion now. People I hadn't seen since college were messaging me awkward condolences, not because they cared, but because they wanted to be part of something viral. Some even offered half-hearted advice. "You should speak up, man. Don't let her control the narrative." But the narrative wasn't hers anymore. Not after what I found in the basement. We kept boxes down there. Old moving crates we never unpacked, full of things neither of us wanted to throw away, but didn't want inside either. I went down looking for a charger. What I found was a shoebox labeled winter stuff. Inside, tangled in a pair of holiday socks and a broken ornament, was her old phone. Odessa's previous phone, the one she lost 6 months ago, conveniently after our last major argument. She had replaced it the next week without ever letting me see what was on it. I turned it on, half expecting it to be wiped. It wasn't. No passcode either. She'd probably forgotten about it entirely. The messages were still there. Not just with Eli. There were others. Men I'd never heard of. Some flirtatious, some disturbing. Some dated over a year ago. Photos. Audio messages. Even one where she laughed to someone named Bryce about how easily I backed down when she cried. He thinks he's being noble, but it's just guilt. That's his love language, guilt. I felt sick. It wasn't the cheating. It wasn't even the lying. It was the performance. All that time she'd been accusing me of shutting down emotionally, of being too quiet, too reserved, too slow to respond. And the entire time, she was running rehearsals behind my back. I was the final draft of a man she had rewritten over and over again until he no longer had a voice. But now I knew something she didn't. She thought the notebook was her secret weapon. But this phone was mine. I didn't rush. Didn't post screenshots or go live or make vague statements with sad music behind them. Instead, I started reading. Reading everything. Because if she was writing a story and casting me as the villain, I figured I might as well learn my lines. The truth didn't need a spotlight. It just needed patience. She wanted an audience. I wanted the truth. And the truth, I was learning, has a way of waiting quietly until the room is silent enough for everyone to hear it. What I did next didn't involve anger, or revenge, or even confrontation. It involved a lawyer, one who specialized in digital forensics and reputation management. Because if Odessa wanted a war of narratives, she should have thought twice before leaving the script lying in a drawer. My lawyer's name was Nora. She didn't smile when I handed her the phone, didn't gasp or lean in or ask a single personal question. She just flipped through the files like she was reading instructions for assembling a chair. Calm, cold, brilliant. You have no idea how valuable this is, she said finally, setting the phone down gently between us. You're holding a map, one she thought no one would ever read. She spent the next hour explaining things I'd never considered, how metadata works, how messages can be authenticated, how even deleted photos leave a fingerprint. She talked about timelines, contradictions, the value of silence in a public unraveling. You're not here to win the internet, she said. You're here to take your life back. It felt strange, sitting across from someone who saw everything. My humiliation, my heartbreak, the way my voice cracked when I tried to say wife in past tense, and yet didn't pity me. She didn't comfort me. She respected me, like I had finally stepped out of the costume she'd stuffed me into. We filed everything, quietly. No explosive lawsuits, no interviews, no vague threats online. Just calm paperwork and airtight digital evidence prepared for the day Odessa would go one post too far. And that day came sooner than I expected. The photo was of her and Eli again, this time on a pier. Golden hour. Sunlight behind them. Her forehead pressed to his cheek. A caption that read, "To all the women out there rebuilding from the ashes, this is your sign." The comment section exploded. Praise. Adoration. Women tagging their friends. Empowerment memes. Podcast hosts reposting it with phrases like, "She's the blueprint." But someone else commented too. Just one person. No profile photo. No followers. One post. Does he know about the others? It took exactly 6 minutes for that comment to vanish. But I'd already seen it. And more importantly, so had Nora. Let it sit, she told me that night. Watch her squirm. The worst thing you can do to someone addicted to attention is make them paranoid that the crowd is whispering. She was right, because Odessa posted nothing for 3 days. Then she turned her profile private. Then Eli deleted his account. And then, finally, I got a message. Not an apology. Not even a question. Just one sentence. "You're ruining everything I built." I didn't reply, because I wasn't done yet. What she'd built wasn't real. It was a sandcastle in a storm. It wasn't just the lies she told online. It was the lies she told herself. That she was the victim. That her betrayal was brave. That I had deserved it. But now she was the one spiraling. Now I had the truth. And I wasn't going to use it to hurt her. I was going to use it to make her irrelevant. I never posted anything. Not a screenshot. Not a thread. Not a tell-all. I didn't need to. Because sometimes, the loudest thing you can do is go quiet and let the truth do the walking. Odessa tried to stage a comeback a few weeks later. A black and white photo of her standing alone by a window. Caption: "Growth isn't linear. Sometimes peace is messy." But the crowd had thinned. The comments weren't full of admiration anymore. They were full of questions. Suspicion. Doubt. One by one, the likes slowed. The shares stopped. The followers moved on. Because you can only sell a fairy tale for so long before people realize it's scripted. I watched it all fade without feeling a single pulse of joy. That was the strangest part. I thought I'd feel vindicated, triumphant. But instead, I just felt free. Like stepping out of a burning house and realizing you didn't care about the wallpaper anymore. Nora closed the case 2 weeks later. The divorce was finalized with no fanfare. No courtroom drama. She tried to contest the terms at the last minute, claiming emotional distress, ironically, but the evidence made that laughable. We settled quietly, cleanly. She walked away with less than she expected. I walked away with nothing in my hands, but everything back in my head. I moved. Not out of the city, just out of the shadow. New apartment. 1 bedroom. No ghosts in the hallway. The first morning there, I brewed coffee and sat on the balcony with a book I hadn't touched in years. It was quiet. No Instagram. No curated reality. Just steam rising from a chipped mug and the sound of pigeons arguing on a rooftop across the alley. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was performing grief for someone else's story. I was just living. A month later, Jules texted to ask if I wanted to go hiking. Said he met someone new and they had a friend. Normally I would have said no, made an excuse. But this time I didn't. I went. Not because I was ready, but because I was open. Her name was Cameron. Soft-spoken, a little awkward. She liked weird documentaries and old libraries and talking during movies. She didn't ask about Odessa. She asked what my favorite breakfast was as a kid. And that was enough. Sometimes healing isn't an explosion. It's a quiet sunrise. A new mug. A real question. A life unscripted. Odessa tried to write me out of my own story. But I picked up the pen. And I didn't use it to strike back. I used it to write something better.